welcome back to another Friday Fireside Chat. I hope you're having a great day today. I would like to remind you that we are now 50% through 2026. Isn't that insane? It seems like the year just started and it's already over 50% done. So, we're now in July 3rd. I think today is on Friday. And the theme for this month is establishing boundaries and assertiveness. We're in week one. And the theme for this week is understanding the importance of boundaries. Now, this is one of the most important lessons, and perhaps it should even come a bit earlier in the year because if you fail to establish and maintain your boundaries, then your effectiveness during the process of reparenting is going to be diminished. And that's because you will not be aware of how to protect yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, which is very essential to the process of reparenting, coming back to your self-individuation, because we are impacted by our environment. And so it's so important to set boundaries, not just physical boundaries, but emotional boundaries, mental boundaries, spiritual boundaries, financial boundaries, all sexual boundaries, all kinds of boundaries that, if you don't have them, will lead you to being drained, you know? And a lot of people who are in the process of reparenting, unfortunately, did not have the childhoods that allowed them to keep themselves safe, to establish boundaries, and to learn their rights. One thing that I'd like to suggest, if you haven't heard of the human Bill of Rights, let me say I forget who created this. I found it in the ACA program. Let's see if I can find it. It's quite funny because in one of my support groups, when I first started to go to this, it's from ACA, and I'm now trying to find the list. Oh wait, I think I found it. I'll also put this in the show notes just as a reminder. Oh yeah. So this is quite funny. It's called the ACA Bill of Rights. So I have shared before that I had some doubts about this program, even though it was very helpful and beneficial for me. In the beginning, I decided to take some distance because, I evolved beyond that. It's an emotional emergency room, right? And so you don't stay in the emotional emergency room forever, right? So if you have broke your leg or have a heart attack, you go to the emergency room and then you go to a different doctor, a different location for the next steps in your healing process, right? So this ACA is like an emotional emergency room. The people there are in extreme crisis. But as always, when you're healing and growing, you don't stay in the emergency room forever, right? So I'm not trying to say ACA doesn't have any value because it's a free program and many people don't have the resources that they need. So it's great for that, to be honest. It's really great for that. But there are, things beyond this ACA program that are really important if you want to truly individuate. People become addicted to this program because it gives them certainty, grounding, stability. All I had to do is follow these rules and everything is okay, and if that's what you're looking for, then that's fine. It will be a great place for you. But if you're someone who understands the importance of continuous evolution and the imperative that you always center yourself, not in a narcissistic or egotistical way, but in a sense of trusting yourself to make the right decisions about your life and not relying on external dictates about how to live your life. It's impossible. No book can tell you how to read your life. Books can give you ideas that allow you to create your own rules for how to live your life, but you cannot externalize God into a book, by this program. It's impossible. So that's where I kind of had some doubts about this program. But again, maybe there are people who have been so damaged that they're not able to reach that level. And so this is like a landing pad where they're able to manage their life from there on because, some people are 60, 70 years old when they come to this program. In any case, it was a long detour, but they have this thing called the ACA Bill of Rights. And it's quite funny. So I'm just going to read these right now, and because they are also a way to view the importance of your boundaries. So again, you can find the link in the show notes, and you can read it in your own time. I encourage you to save it in case you haven't done that. So number 1, I have the right to say no. Number 2, I have the right to say I don't know. Number 3, I have the right to be wrong. Number 4, I have the right to make mistakes and learn from them. Number 5, I have the right to detach from anyone in whose company I feel humiliated or manipulated. Number 6, I have the right to make my own choices and decisions in my life. Number 7, I have the right to grieve any actual or perceived loss. Number 8, I have the right to all my feelings. Number 9, I have the right to feel angry, including towards someone I love. Number 10, I have the right to change my mind at any time. Number 11, I have the right to a spiritually and physically and emotionally healthier existence, though it may differ entirely or in part from my parents' way of life. Number 12, I have the right to forgive myself and to choose how and when I forgive others. Number 13, I have the right to take healthy risks and to experiment with new possibilities. Number 14, I have the right to be honest in my relationships and to seek the same from others. Number 15, I had the right to ask for what I want. Number 16, I had the right to determine and honor my own priorities and goals and to allow others to do the same. Number 17, I had the right to dream and to have hope. Number 18, I had the right to be my true self. Number 19, I had the right to know and nurture my inner child. And number 20, the last one, I had the right to laugh, to play, to have fun, and the freedom to celebrate this life right here, right now. And my favorite one, there's technically only 20 on this list, but my first ACA group, my home group, and I love them so much. They were a truly amazing group. It's called ACA Limerick. This is a group that's based in Ireland. It's a Zoom meeting, but the people who founded it are based in Ireland, and there's a city called Limerick, Ireland. One day I'm going to go there for sure because they have meetings every single day. The meeting is ongoing every single day. They have 3 days a week. They meet twice in the morning and in the afternoon. I got really close to a lot of people there. And they added one more, number 21, and it's probably the best one, but no other group says that, so you won't hear that if you go to another ACA meeting. They might be offended if you say it. But in this ACA Limerick meeting, number 21 is, I have the right at any time to tell anyone to fuck off. And I love that. Just like, it really is actually one of the most important things, especially now in these days where people are on the demon time, people have like really lost their empathy, compassion, feelings. So sometimes you really do need to know that you can tell anyone at any time to fuck off. Sometimes you just need to know that. So, yeah, anyways, I want to share that with you. It's very important, again, because it's like a baseline foundation of boundaries and self-respect that you probably missed if you came from a dysfunctional family. So please do check that out. And please don't forget to add number 21. I have the right at any time to tell anyone to fuck off. Because, sometimes, especially if you've been trained into submission or subservience to other people, you will feel guilty for standing up for yourself. But you really do have the right to tell anyone at any time to fuck off. Maybe there are situations where it's not appropriate, like a police officer trying to give you a ticket. You can't just say fuck off. That's not a good example. But, there are circumstances when obviously you can. But, in general, this is like the right to own your power to protect yourself in an absolute way. Don't forget that. One of the most important. And so today I'm going to be sharing a portion of a lecture, moving on from that, by Poumpouras. I love this lady. She's insane. She's like this small, short, petite, blonde lady, and she's just such a beast and a fighter, And it's funny to see someone so strong who is like physically so little. I think she's like an ex-FBI or some kind of police, whatever her background is. A very interesting talk that she gives about boundaries and self-confidence. She has many, many, many videos and lectures, interviews on YouTube, so I encourage you to look into her. I've shared some of her discussions before, but I encourage you to look into it, especially this month as we look and work on boundaries. And so this video is called Self-Confidence and Boundaries, I think the official name of this video. Started to play there. This video is technically called The Key to Personal Boundaries with Evie Poumpouras, and this is from December 22nd last year, 2025, in case you're listening from the very distant future. And she's making a connection between the ability to ground your self-confidence and your boundaries, right? A lot of us, I didn't even know what boundaries were, until I was well into my mid-20s. As an adult, because that's not something that you typically learn in a family. And so we're beginning our understanding of boundaries from the baseline, right? We're in the third year of reparenting, so we understand now what boundaries are, right? But sometimes you need a refresher to really understand the amount of different kind of boundaries that exist, right? You have the emotional boundaries, the psychic boundaries, the physical boundaries, financial boundaries, spiritual, religious boundaries. Let me just make sure my cat is not trying to steal my food, because sometimes she's tried to steal my food. Okay, she's not. So basically what I want to encourage you is that to remind yourself, to refresh yourself on the types of boundaries that you have in your life. In this lecture, or this short talk, it's not really a lecture, it's quite a short video, she reminds us of the importance of our boundaries. What do they really represent? What do they do for us? She's explaining that, we have a responsibility for ourselves to determine and be selective with who comes into our life, right? If someone knocks on your door, in the middle of the night, you don't just let every person in who knocks on your door, right? You have to consider. And even then, if someone came in and a friend or something, and then they start to trash your house, instead of peeing in the bathroom, they pee all over your sofa, right? You're not going to let that person stay to continue to damage your house, right? Would you, even if they were your friend or your sister or brother? You would eventually have to ask them to leave or force them to leave if they refused. Those are your boundaries. And so we need a lot of experiential understanding, listening to different perspectives of people who have established boundaries, and to learn from their experience how they did it, how they perceive it, how they respond to different situations. It's such an essential skill, setting boundaries, knowing when to set boundaries. That comes with your connection to yourself, because if you've lost your connection to yourself, if you're dissociated from your body, you will not have access to the physical sensations that will tell you when a boundary is required. That's why our feelings and emotions are so important. So all of the numbing, escaping, that has to stop for you to return to your true self. So without further ado, here's Evie Poumpouras.
People will distract you and derail you from what you are trying to do if you don't pay attention. I want you to think of it this way. You are the gatekeeper. You are the gatekeeper of who comes into your life. You're the gatekeeper at the door. When somebody knocks on your door, do you just open the door and let whoever come in? No, you check and you see who they are. You decide whether or not you let them in, and then you know what else? You decide how long they stay. That's how you're going to look at your relationships with people. You choose who comes in. If you just open the door and it's like, everybody come on in, it's a free-for-all, your house is going to be a mess, is it not? They're going to wreck that thing up. People do that to your life as well. You can't just be an open door and just let everybody in and then get upset when they wreak havoc. You control that gate. You decide who comes in. I want you to think of it like you're the bouncer at the door. You ever go to the clubs? I did when I was younger. There was a bouncer at the door. They had the clipboard. They had the names. Are you on my list? Oh, you're on my list. Okay, you're not on my list. It would be like, hey, sorry, you can't come in. You do the same thing. And then, even after you let them in, if they're not behaving right, you can ask them to leave. But that's on you. We have to think about who we let in, and then we decide how long they stay. Just because you let somebody in, it doesn't mean you let them do what they want. But that's on you. And it's on your ability to create those boundaries. And we hear this term a lot, but we show people what we are willing to take and what we are willing not to take. So we have to focus on, what is your goal? Is your goal to execute something? People are going to come along the way. They're going to derail you. They're going to confuse you. They're going to disrespect you. But you have to stay on track. You have to stay on mission. Where are you trying to go? Because if you don't pay attention, they're going to pull you off your path. Now, it's okay to get feedback. It's okay to look to somebody and ask for their opinion. But where we start to fuzzy the lines is when we start to ask everybody for their opinion. What do you think I should do? Well, what do you think here? Well, how should I handle this? Here's what happens when we do that. We start to create more noise in our head. There's a lot more chatter. And when there's a lot of chatter, you can't think straight. And now what you intuitively want to do gets muddied. And now you've got everybody else's voice in your head. That is why it's a problem. Also, you are telling yourself, I don't trust me, but that guy, he must know better. He must know what I should do. Think about subconsciously the message that you are giving to yourself. I don't trust myself, so I'm gonna pull everybody else around me to tell me what to do, because they must have it figured out. We always tend to think other people know more than we do. It's actually not the case. Trust yourself. Now, if you're going to ask people for guidance or advice, I'm okay with that, but please remember two important things. Who are they and why should you listen to them? If you're going to ask somebody, think about what am I asking them about and why should you listen to them? That is how you're going to filter out the noise and the feedback. But make a mistake. We are petrified, and that is fear. When fear controls every decision you make, you won't live, you won't make choices, you will just be too afraid to do things. Fail forward, fail with grace. In fact, I wish you as much failure as possible, because that is what is going to increase your self-confidence and, by the way, your resilience.
Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this lecture, or a short portion of a talk by Poumpouras. As always, you can find the link in the show notes. I do encourage you to check it out in its entirety, as well as the ACA Bill of Rights. You can find that link in the show notes. Also, very, very important to check that out for this month. Very, very important. And don't forget to add number 21. I have the right at any time to tell anyone to fuck off. Probably the most important one. In this day and age. Just a little bit of a joke, but also not so much of a joke. Returning to Poumpouras, the important thing that we have to remember when we're setting our boundaries is that we are going to be under practiced coming from dysfunctional families, and we might have some blind spots. And so it's important that we pay attention to this, because it is like our ability to stop the leak on our ship, for example, right? It's the leaking of our self-esteem. Our lack of boundaries is the leaking of our self-esteem and self-confidence, as she mentioned, and literally our peace of mind. So your failure to have boundaries, or the gaps in your understanding of boundaries and how to fully implement them to protect yourself, is what is going to cause a leakage or a drain of your self-esteem, your confidence, and your self-respect, and your peace. That is the leak in the bucket. And the fact of the matter is that in this world, in reality, people infringe on your boundaries because it is a subtle form of domination. And if you're familiar with Hegel, the German philosopher, one of the most important things of the, what do you call this, the dialectic, I'm forgetting the name of the term now, but basically his philosophy in reference to interpersonal connection states that there is inherently someone who is always dominating an interaction between two individuals, right? So if there are two individuals conversing, there is always some slight form of domination. Energetic, emotional, mental, right? Not physical domination always, but there is some slight sense of domination between every human exchange, because every human interaction also contains power. So people inch towards this domination because it allows them to extract life force energy from you. People are actually fed by crossing your boundaries and dominating you. And so you need to be aware of that, and that these people in the world exist. Not everyone is like that, but especially people who are unconscious, people who are extremely wounded, people who are not connected to God and their true self, they are not being fed by the universal collective unconsciousness. They are not being fed by God, the universe, via their connection to their true selves. When you are connected to your true selves, for example, the musician Mozart, he had an extreme connection to the divine. That's how he was able to produce so much music in his flow, living his talent. And guess what? The love, attention, and everything came, resources, money, everything came to him because of his connection to the divine. But if you're someone who was abused as a child and you were not able to discover your true self, your divine gift, and you're not able to live that in the world, then you will be existing with a belief of worthlessness. And when you behave in the world with a sense of worthlessness and insecurity, inferiority, people will treat you as such, you know? And then you have no life force, and then you get sick, you get cancer, you get all kinds of physical, mental diseases. And so people under this extreme pressure, because everyone is self-serving, that's when they start to abuse other people to steal their power so that they are not depleted, right? This is the desperation. But when you are connected to your God power, the universal creative force, then you don't need to steal and dominate and abuse people. But you need to be aware of that because it's something that we don't learn as kids. And to be honest, it's not something that they're going to discuss in the ACA program either. There's another reason that I also let that program, because again, it's an emotional emergency room. But they're not teaching you the ways of the universe. They're not teaching you the laws of the universe and how to fully live empowered, you know? And so it's so important that we realize that and learn to respect ourselves in this process. It's one of the most important things that came from this lecture by Evie. I really, truly love her. And I hope that you guys look on YouTube or some other podcasts to search for more of her interviews, because she has so much more to say on the topic. Also in terms of how to read people, like very, very down-to-earth, day-to-day, effective, practical people skills, social skills. And how your ability to set boundaries relates to that. Again, because remember, as Hegel said, there is always some kind of domination between an interchange between two people. All right? And unconscious people, which are many on this planet, in this day and age, in June 1st, 2026, the mass numbers of people on demon time out here, right? People are in desperation, especially if you're in the U.S., but really around the world. You can feel it. It's palpable. And so it's even more important if you're on this reparenting journey to know how to put boundaries in your energetic field. This also pertains to what kind of content you're watching, what kind of social media platforms you're engaging with, and how you're able to adapt your algorithm. I really try to rely only on YouTube, and I've been working this week to try to adjust my algorithm so they will stop suggesting to me these doomsday videos, because I got addicted to this lady called Homestead Journey. And so she always does these compilation videos, normally of TikTok, talking about all the chaos going on in the US. But there's so much negative energy, so much fear. And I guess maybe because I watch so many of those videos that YouTube keep suggesting, even though every time I see that or something related to news, I say block channel, block video, not interested. And I've done at least 500 blocking, I think. And, sometimes I wonder, is it just because I consume too much, or are they actually trying to force that fear down our throats? And if that's the case, maybe I need to delete YouTube. But I really don't want to delete YouTube. But, these other social media platforms, you really have to be careful, because it is a mind control tool, And if the algorithm is not responding to your modifications and preferences, you need to be aware of that, because that's also another boundary. It's a psychic invasion. And the information you consume is so important, because that is going directly to your subconscious mind. And we all know the importance of the subconscious mind. So I've been chatting for quite a long time today, guys. I hope that you've enjoyed this lesson. I hope that you've had a great, great, great week. If you are in the U.S., happy 4th of July tomorrow. Very interesting times to be celebrating the 250th anniversary of the U.S. My prayers are with you. That's all I'm going to say for that. I hope that you guys will find a way back to the America that we all knew and love. And I hope that things are going to get better over there. I know that they will in time, and I know it's just a difficult period of transition. But I am truly grateful that I am not there for the 250th anniversary. It's quite disappointing what has become of our nation. As much as I love and I miss America and the people, it's at this moment, it's so much despair that I am personally dealing with too much of my own issues, trying to reparent and working on this stuff, that, if I was still there, I would not at all have the capacity to do this work and to share this work with you all. And so I'm grateful to be where I am, and I'm wishing you all the best, no matter where you are. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourself. Don't forget to have some fun, because that is the most important. Your joy is your map back to your true self. Have a great weekend, guys. As always, take care, and I'll see you the next time.